No?
Okay, what about now? Yeah? Okay, yeah, now it is. Cool.
Hello.
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 Alright, I'm just gonna put some links around the place. This link will be in
Me
community
too.
news, you two. That's
Okay.
that will be the ping.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stream now. We're getting picked up. Fine.
There,
I will put it
and
in the folk podcast.
there.
Discord
And
as
then
well.
I'm just going to send a link to my girlfriend in case she wants to watch. She's probably in Disneyland, I think, at the moment, so I don't know if she's actually going to, but maybe if she's in a queue for a ride,
World.
she'll stick it on with some headphones on or something. Oh, wait, no, she left her phone in her hotel room, I remember. No, alright, I won't bother then. That's fine.
I'm going to put this in the folk podcast.
Right, and then I just need to get the link open on my phone. And then I can keep an eye on the chat. Wow, there is absolutely no fucking chat on the actual web browser. Hey guys, sorry.
Yeah.
Streaming is useless, apparently. Apparently the stream chat. How do I open up the chat on the phone? There it is. Yo, real AO new stream, OMG Alive.
There, I published a link on my server too.
Cool.
Hello, everyone.
Greetings. Today we're streaming Goreagulation, which, spoiler alert, I made with a couple of people from RTBR doing roles. I had a couple of testers from RTBR also testing this, but also for voice acting I had Amicus.
Hello, it's me.
And Entity.
Hello.
Who are the Grigori / generic rebel number 4 and Barney voice actors / elite cop voice actors in RTBR, as well as the fact that Amicus does a bunch of random sound stuff for NPCs like the zombies, which you'll hear hopefully in the not too distant future. Division 2. That's fine. And Entity is also a composer and also does a little bit of sound design in some places as well. So yeah. Anyway, so you can ask me in this stream Goreagulation questions if you want, because, you know, I'm unlike the Entropy Zero stream where it was very much a team effort and I didn't really feel like it was appropriate for me to answer questions. I did like 99% of this, so I'm fine with answering questions about anything. As well as that, seeing as we are on the RTBR channel, and this is an RTBR stream first and then a Goreagulation stream second. If you have questions about RTBR, you're also welcome to ask those. And if you have any questions about that, just keep in mind, if your question is when is Division 2 coming out, the answer will be at some point, because I don't have a date for you. But, you know, anything else, feel free to ask the question. Right, so there's a little story behind the menu sound on this, isn't there, Amicus?
Yes. Are you talking about the menu sounds going back and forth? Yeah. That was an accident. That I was doing sound design for I think I was doing sound design for Operation Black Mesa at the time, but I made like this weird kind of heart-throbby sound. It sounded like, I don't know, somewhere between like a machine or like a person trying to do CPR or something. So I was like, hey, you want this? I think it fits pretty well.
Yeah, I really liked it. It made a very nice little ring to the main menu, and then obviously the squishy sounds are just one of many squishy things in this mod. In terms of the custom HUD and stuff, I used a tool from Game Banana, which is actually designed for Half-Life 2 Deathmatch. Hello, Avenger. I think that's Trevor, actually. I recognize that username.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I used this tool on Game Banana, which is actually for Half-Life 2 Deathmatch for making custom HUDs. But with quite a bit of tinkering, it managed to produce a custom HUD for Goreagulation as well. We're probably not going to use it for RTBR because it required so much tinkering that, like, we have people in RTBR who can just do HUDs. But I don't know how to do a custom HUD, so that's why I needed to use a tool, basically. And on RTBR, I can't see a lot of use for it. We already kind of have our HUD, and if we wanted to make any changes, we have enough people who can kind of work it out. But I think we just do it by hand. But still, it was interesting. So if you fancy making your own HUD for your own mod, I think it's by a guy called Pred6. I think he's in the credits, so we'll see that at the end of the stream. He made that tool. It was pretty handy. It affects the menu and some other things. Cool. And then with this main menu screen, obviously the mod's pretty short. There's 4 gameplay maps and 2 ending maps. So usually when you make a background map for your mod, you would tend to just pick one of the gameplay maps and just use a segment of that, right? For your menu background. But for Goreagulation, because the mod's so short, I thought it was prudent to instead make like a whole new segment of map. So this whole thing is not in any of the maps. This is just unique to the menu screen. That's kind of the idea behind it. Yeah, to be honest, sorry if it's been asked before, but when is the next update video going to come? The next update video will be announcing the release of Division 2. I'm not telling you when that is. That's not me saying it's going to happen soon or next week or the week after. But it is me saying that we're close enough to that line where the next video will be releasing Division 2.
But look under your seats.
Exactly. Look, what's under
There's something there.
What's under?
There's
The
something there.
Come when it is ready.
Exactly. Okay.
Yes.
Let's dig in then to the mod.
Let's dive in. Let's dive
Dive
into
into
the
flesh.
Goreagulation.
Man, that boom sound
Where
is
am I?
so nice.
Who am I?
Yep.
What am I? Alright. So
You're
that's so something else you'll see. That's part of the reason why Silent is in the credits as well. He gave me permission to use some RTBR stuff in Goreagulation. It's worth noting a lot of the weapons, when I actually put them in Goreagulation, were pretty... those were the RTBR weapons animations, and they've been redone since then, so now those animations are technically unique to Goreagulation instead, which is kind of funny. But yeah.
it's hair, so much hair. Oh God, what the heck did where the heck did all this hair come from?
That's a Goreagulation quote right there. Where did all this hair come from?
Yeah.
So this room was obviously the first room I ever passed. There's a few things I want to establish to a player right away. Whilst not every room in the mod is fleshy, a lot of rooms will be, so the flesh has to be a component here. Yeah, Bruno, this is Goreagulation. I made it. That's why we're streaming it. Just in case you're wondering why we're streaming this seemingly unrelated mod. These fleshy pods are a lot of the assets in Goreagulation, not all, but a lot of them are modeled from a kind of remodels of the original Half-Life 2 assets to be fleshy. In a lot of cases, I started from that asset, subdivided it, and then did lots of sculpting. That's what I did here. For the pod that you awaken in and the pods around this room.
Yeah, I've seen this game engine before.
Yeah, how about that? Now that one makes a little more sense. These obviously antlion hives, textured red. Now with the spirals, this was inspired by, I think it's Umzaki by Junji Ito. Which is which is a Japanese horror artist, and he has this thing where loads of people start getting like possessed by like these spirals that spiral into their heads and turn their entire head into like an infinite spiral staircase.
It is gross. It is disgusting.
Yeah, it's pretty
really
gross,
yeah.
and I think it's pretty powerful imagery because, like, you know, that kind of spiral stuff is it's like it's a very unusual shape that kind of keeps folding back in on itself, and it. You know, I think it can be unsettling in some cases. So I think it's a good choice of shape to evoke here. So there's a lot of spirals throughout the mod. That's why I was inspired by that a bit. In terms of the overall fleshiness, I was inspired by a few things. But yeah.
Bruno says, "Yeah, I think this is a Gmod game mode or something."
Yeah. It's gore
It's
mod.
more than that.
Exactly.
It's,
I mean, if you shorten Goreagulation to G, then it could also be Gmod. So make of that what you will.
It's a Gary's mod. Gore mod.
Exactly.
I've seen that work before. I think someone got turned into a snail.
Yeah, something
yeah,
like that, you know.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah. There's a lot of good
It's
Junji
still
Ito stuff I
imagery.
could have dug
Great.
upon. Anyway, shh.
they sent you to finish me off, huh?
Calm down. I don't know what I am. Who are you?
Don't know. You're a meat man. One of those bastards they send to kidnap people and bring them down here to the Gore mines.
I don't recall.
Push forwards. If you're not like one of them, I'll try to kill you. You kill them back. If you see little eyes next to their doors, turn them blind. Ascend the spire. Destroy the eye.
I will. Cool. So that was Entity. In his starring role in Goreagulation. If this choreographed sequence was one of the first things I did, this sequence was here when Goreagulation was literally that room, that corridor, this room, and that room. I just decided to get this sequence out the way and do it nice and early. It's been shortened a fair bit. The original take, I kind of overdid it with how long it was, and there was nothing wrong with Entity's performance or anything. That's not why I shortened it. I shortened it because the player was standing here for a minute and a half. And it was like, maybe that's too long. So now they stand here for just shy of 60 seconds, and that's if you want to catch all the initial info on everything. So I assume most people won't mind standing here for the initial 60 seconds just to understand what's going on. And then there's also...
An original person says, damn bro, he needs some detergent. Why is he in a cage?
He's in the cage because he's going to be turned into one of the Gorbine, presumably.
Oh yeah.
And that's why he's
he does need some. Yeah, it looks like I just noticed what he meant by that. Like detergent. What do you mean? Like
his clothing.
He's been messed up.
It's pretty dirty, to be honest. Yeah.
He is vibing.
He is vibing. This is true.
Dude, I remember I recorded those first lines like around the time when you started, and I think that was when you were. So did you when I recorded the lines? Was that when you were still planning it to be in MATLabs, or was that when you decided to be independent?
I think at that point I was slightly undecided because, like, I think at that point I still only had the Flesh MG and the Gore bar. I don't think I had anything else yet. So I think I was still thinking I could probably just still make this a MATLabs, and do all that. But I wasn't sure. So Goreagulation originally was going to start as a MATLabs entry. But once I got a little bit in, I was like, am I really going to just make this like one map to a competition? I feel like I should make like something bigger of this, right? Like it could be more interesting if it was expanded in concept a little bit more. Obviously I have enough side projects as it is. Entity knows because he's the main character in another side project of mine. Which we're not talking about today, but hopefully in sometime next year we will be. I have enough side projects, so I still wanted to keep the scope pretty small. So that's why Goreagulation is pretty small overall. So these
background sounds.
These are just kind of water and a couple of other piston sounds. But I'll play and just kind of create a general atmosphere. I've also been using the E3. Hi Metric, glad to hear it. I've also been using the E3 soundscape because it's pretty reliable. So here we've got 3 projected textures. Although I didn't make extensive use of everything map-based has to offer, I did use map-based quite a bit in this mod. Stuff like projected textures is just a really nice thing that you can do much more easily with map-based. That's how there's 3 separate moving ones here at the moment. In addition, there's a lot of other little features that we'll see later on, like enemies and stuff. Map-based is really handy because I'm not a programmer. I understand a little bit of C++, and in the early days of RTBR, I did some very simple programming for RTBR. But I really don't like programming, and I'm not actually very good at it. So when it came to Goreagulation, if I wanted any custom features, it was probably going to all have to be done with map logic or something else. That is, except for the fact that map-based is pretty good. And so I had a lot of extra features afforded to me by map-based that just gave me a lot of extra room to work with. So that's pretty handy. Map-based also just actually, kind of like clears up a lot of entity logic. It's really nice for mappers. That's why it's called map-based. So yeah.
Zilla says, I really like the HUD design.
Thank you. As I say, this is largely a HUD design that you can adapt from the Half-Life 2 Deathmatch HUD Maker tool, which again I think is in the creator's name is Pred6, I think, but to be sure on that, his name's in the credits at the end of the mod, so we'll see that. If you know how to do custom HUD stuff, it is easier to just do that, because I had quite a lot of issues to work out in transferring it into Goreagulation. But it was a pretty good starting point, because I don't know how to make a custom HUD. So that was a pretty good point.
HUD looks like COD zombies.
I can see it.
Round 1.
I can see it too. Honestly,
You made it to round 100? Holy shit.
Crazy.
really? Round 100 in Goreagulation.
So the vignette is there because it's meant to be like you're looking through eyes, but just to clarify, there is... Where's the hotkey? There is a hotkey that lets you turn it off and back on. So P turns it off, L turns it on. I'm going to leave it on because that's how I intended it visually to be portrayed. But if you play this mod and you'd rather not play with a vignette, you can press P to turn it off and L to put it back on. It's not in the options menu because it's not code side. I literally just have a bind that fires on the entity that turns on the vignette to turn it off and on again. So you can do that if you like, but it's not a code thing. That's why it's not in the options. It is also noted in the file's description on ModDB, so you can turn it off and back on if you want. As I say, I'm going to leave it on because that's how I played Goreagulation, how I designed it visually. But yeah. So the flashlight is actually its own texture as well. This is basically meant to be kind of like cataracts or something. It creates quite the funny image in my head of the gore guy putting the flashlight on and his eyes just glowing forwards like headlights. I don't actually know where this light is coming from. It's probably better not to ask. But yeah.
It makes a good visual with the vignette as well. It looks like an iris in the middle of the eye.
Yeah. So... But that was just a simple thing. There's a lot of little sound things I'm not going to go into detail about. There's a couple of bigger sound things I do want to go into detail about. But for example, this is just a hit sound effect that's fleshy. The flashlight sound effect is also just a bit fleshier. This is a scaled down Ravenholm water tower on the floor, yeah, with the water going into it. I put a player clip there because this whole thing used to be not solid, because that's what happens when you scale a prop dynamic like this, so then you used to be able to just go underneath the water, which is a bit gross, but unintentionally. So. But yeah.
The one with the guy who made his eye a flashlight.
No, Raisin Bar Redux is not dead, thank you. Check Twitter.
Very much alive.
What are you talking about?
Very much
Is it
alive.
dead?
Check the Twitter.
Just because he's working on, like, you know, maybe 2 other, it's still alive. It's all good.
I work on other things to practice skills and stuff, you know. Also, with Goreagulation done, actually, TBE is the only other side project I've got now. I'm not going to pick up any others until TBE is done. I'm going to get it done at some point. I'm not going to say when I'm trying to get that done. I think I've told Entity, but I'm not saying that publicly. I'm not stupid. So...
Hey, Kaiko, how's it going?
Yeah. Hey there, Keiko.
Velver Amicus, how you all been? All right.
So, this is...
Thanks for asking.
This is a water thing here. These are modified water source textures by... Where's Amicus 2? I think that's...
Don't call him Amicus 2 on his own stream.
Yeah, enough of that. And on this stream, Amicus is Kralik 2, thank you.
I'm Kralik 2 on this stream.
Yeah, and Entity's Kralik 3.
The 3 corrals.
Exactly. These are
sounds like an old barbershop band.
Exactly.
Honestly.
So these textures down here are Top Hat Waffles water source textures, modified. For areas where you actually walk through it, there's a water brush just underneath so that there's still a water impact, because they are not designed to use as water textures themselves. Here's another projected texture, thank you Mapbase. And then another moving part. A lot of these moving parts are just kind of here for, I'm going to turn this down, maybe the tiniest bit. It's a little loud. Leave the music full one though. There's a lot of moving parts like this, which are basically just designed for, you know, a little bit of ambience, a little bit of movement around the place.
Brunner said the red lighting popping out of little holes in the walls reminds me of behind-the-scenes areas in Portal.
So for the not fleshy areas, I did actually go back over Portal behind the scenes because it's very rusty and kind of like dingy in the Portal behind the scenes areas, and that's kind of what I wanted to channel.
Are you using any textures from Portal?
Yes, actually. These stain textures primarily. I'm not using any world textures, I think, but all of these stains. Okay, yeah, that stain there, that stain there, that stain there, and there's a couple more stain. That one there as well. There's a couple of these stain textures which are really great, and I use them in all of my mods because they are great stain textures. I then also modified a couple to be reddish and to have blood artifacts on them for Goreagulation. So there's a couple of bloodied variants of these as well. There's a lot of asset retextures and stuff in Goreagulation because I think it's a very efficient way to just create something and defamiliarize. A mod like this is all about defamiliarizing, right, and making the player feel uncomfortable because they don't really recognize the stuff they're looking at sometimes, right? Like it's all just a little bit different. Such a simple thing as, for example, this this turbine here, for example, is just red. It's just simple things like that. Yeah.
Is this... Coral says this is in the Half-Life universe.
Yeah, ostensibly it's sort of in the Half-Life universe.
Beta head crab.
But like in a very mild way, like in some tucked off corner or something. I'm not that fussed about how it fits in with the canon. I just kind of wanted to say, hey, there's head crabs in Combine maybe, because I might do something with it in a follow-up, but I don't know. Am I playing on easy? I am. Let me just move out to normal real quick.
Wow, fake fan.
Exactly. So these
Gordon
things here.
Fleshman, deep lore.
Exactly. These things here are the equivalent of lambdas in Half-Life 2. They basically denote secret areas, although they don't denote supplies like in Half-Life 2. There's one in each level. I'd say the first one and last one are probably the easiest to find. The other two are intended to be hidden. The canon ending is the good one, I would say, if I had to pick a canon ending. But seeing as there is no Goreagulation 2, ostensibly doesn't really matter. Because we don't know what's going to happen next. We may never know what's going to happen next. Anyway, despises man and machine in equal measure. The crabs obey it as their matriarch. So, this is a behind the scenes area. I think this might be a Portal prop. I think I basically just took the whole props BTS folder from Portal, and I think I just slapped it in Goreagulation, to be honest. So I might be using world textures and I might not remember, so... yeah. In terms of this lore stuff, it's because Goreagulation does have a little bit of a story lore thing, but it's not super heavy. The main thing with Goreagulation is the art stuff, right? It's meant to be a walkthrough. Wow, this is quite visually interesting. Now, obviously, the health stuff is retextured to be dingier, and the goo is purple. In addition, when we see ammo boxes throughout the mod, you'll see they're also just dingier as well. These are one of those assets that I modeled entirely from scratch. The weapons were largely modeled either from scratch or with very close reference to the proportions of the guns, guns from the animations I was using as a necessity because I needed them to fit with the animation. So that's why the SMG is still roughly MP7 shaped. That's why the shotgun is still roughly SPAS 12 shaped. So yeah.
Oranges.
Break those.
Counter-Strike source assets are rarely used, but they're so cool.
Yeah.
Do I have cheats on? I'm just going to do that and do no target real quick so we can look at this guy. So this was the first enemy. This was the first enemy model I made for the mod. I think I did, generally speaking, the weapons first. I think I did the Flesh MG, the Gore Bar, and the Gorenade. I think I did those three first. And then later I did the Flechette. And then I also did the crossbone much later. Crossbone and the meat spinner. It was meat spinner after the flechette, and then it was the crossbone. Initially there wasn't going to be a crossbone, but I'll talk about that more there. But yeah, so these guys are, as you can see, sculpted from the Combine soldiers. they still, you know, it still involved a lot of original sculpting work in a lot of places. But again, as a necessity, in order to make sure it fit the animations and everything, they're largely very similar to the Combine stuff. This is kind of explained in lore stuff as well, like what I generally... Oh, he just spoke a default line there. That's funny. That slipped through somehow. Kill him as he stops talking. So, he's very pretty. Look at that.
That pose.
It's a great pose. Draw me like one of your gore girls. Anyway, these guys are copied from the Combine upstairs in the actual main world. There's a little bit of lore here that the old god is not terribly creative with its brand new designs. You'll see a lot of these things are mimicries of other things. This is me trying to explain away why everything looks similar, because, you know, I had to fit them to animations and stuff. But it's me giving it a little bit of lore as well. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if for once we had an old god who had been around for ages and was just not very creative? And it was like, you know, maybe that's part of the reason why he just reshapes flesh, right? Because he can reshape it into different forms without having to start anew, right? Kind of this blasphemous thing of a god who's not really capable of creating. Not in the usual sense anyway. So we'll progress for now. I'll turn off the no target. And we'll keep progressing. I think I picked up the ammunition already. I did, yeah.
Man, it gives me the creeps that to think that line of the crossbow is a tendon.
Oh yeah. The Flesh MG was the first gun made for the mod. In fact, I think I did the Flesh MG first before the bone bar. This one was before I really had solidified the art style I wanted to go for Goreagulation, so I think of all the guns, it probably stands out the most as looking quite different. I guess this could tie back to the lore that maybe it was the simplest, besides a literal piece of bone, which the old god probably didn't make this. This is probably just a really sharp bone that your guy found and was like, yeah, okay, this'll do. I need something to fight these guys with, right? Better than nothing. But this is probably the first one the old god made because it is the simplest. It was the simplest to reproduce, right? So that's my argument for why it looks the simplest initially, because I haven't really locked down the Goreagulation art style yet. But when I made this. So this is still, this weapon model here is when this was still going to be a map labs entry. Same with the gore bar. So you'll see there's a lot of elements which are similar to the MP7. We've got kind of a sight in the top, you know. We've got the magazine in the grip, like that. We've still got a foregrip at the front. If we hear some of the sounds. Notice the muzzle flash is just colored a bit green. In terms of the sound effects, these are taken from some public sound libraries of guns and stuff. I also recorded a lot of my own sounds because I have a bunch of Nerf guns, and if you record some of them just right, then the mechanics kind of sound like they can work. So I used that in some cases. And for some of this... He's really not liking those hooks, is he? And then for some of the sound effects, I recorded snapping celery, squishing out a sponge, and snapping sticks, as well as punching the palm of my hand whilst it was wet. So yeah. If I had real guns, Bruno, if I didn't live in the United Kingdom, I would have done that. Well, because for Goreagulation for me, the goal was to do as much as possible myself. Like, I really wanted this to be like as pure to my vision as possible. So I really wanted to just tackle as much of this as possible from my own brain, right? And from my own capabilities. So I would have done it if I had real guns. But as I say, some of the Foley for the guns is actually taken from Nerf guns. There's one gun in the mod that's the crossbone that uses entirely original sound effects, no stocks whatsoever. But I'll talk more about that when we get there.
Literally yum.
Very tasty. So the also I can spare an SMG grenade. It's basically just, you know, again, I used the Left 4 Dead grenade launcher sound effect and put some squishy noises over it. the spit, the pellet that it shoots out is actually the bull squid spit projectile that was a placeholder in the Half-Life 2 beta, and then I just textured it red, and gave it a shifting texture. I think someone else said this earlier. I think it was Bruna said earlier. Beta head crab, yes, it's just because it's got blood on it, and it felt like it was more thematically appropriate for Goreagulation to have a head crab that had blood on it. This is also why RTBR's head crabs, whilst they're on a zombie, have blood on them, by the way, because it's a beta thing. But it was a very simple change, so I just slapped it in the mod. The grenade is probably the asset that's most obviously from RTBR, because I did actually just resculpt the RTBR grenade here. I wasn't really sure what to do for a grenade, so I was like, okay, I'm just going to do that. I don't have anything in particular to say about this. It does its job. It's a grenade. It's cool. It makes a noise when you do that, but yeah.
A grenade.
Literally, yum. My brother's tuning in to the live.
Hey, Entity's brother.
He said literally, yum, that's the guy.
Oh, I see.
Hello.
So
Hello.
for
Beta moment.
So for the I was gonna say something else and I just completely forgot. I don't remember. Right. I'll look at some of this design a little bit more. So these are some flesh textures. I made these in Substance Painter with a variety of texture things that they've got there, and then I just kind of made them seamless. The way I tended to do it was I tended to just make a square plane in Blender, import it into Substance Painter, and then I just did the stuff there. And then these are props from the beta. These are the Citizen Tech props for those. And then for this thing here, this is meant to be like a blender thingy, so it's meant to, like, you know, be blending the meat, which then comes out of here, and then these diggers kind of get the meat up in the trough, and they put it into this hatch to go elsewhere, maybe. So yeah, and that hatch spits out the meat from some kind of pipe somewhere.
Oh my god, is that Markiplier?
I'm afraid not. I'm afraid it's not Markiplier. It would be nice if he was playing Goreagulation.
Multiplier.
Division plier.
Exactly.
Why isn't Darkiplier called Division plier?
This man said Scorn with substance. Honestly, this is this is better than Scorn, just in every way.
I
Especially
wouldn't
just
say every way. I'd say Scorn far outpaces
combat.
Goreagulation in visuals. I mean, look, the thing is, Goreagulation is first and foremost a Half-Life 2 mod, right? So it's going to have combat, because it's very hard to do anything but combat in Half-Life 2 mods without getting involved with programming. But when it comes to, like, things like Scorn is not really trying to be like a combat thing. It's trying to be like an art book you walk through that happens to have some combat elements, right? And I almost think it'd be better if Scorn was basically just something you walked through. If it had been a no combat kind of atmospheric thriller on its own, I feel like that maybe would have served a little better. But like, I still think Scorn is a really amazingly good looking thing, and I was inspired by Scorn for Goreagulation. So I gotta say, I think it's good. I think maybe it was a victim of its own marketing a little bit. But the main thing is, I think it's a beautiful game in a very ugly way, which makes a lot of sense, obviously. It's Scorn. And that's kind of artistically a little bit like what I'm going with Goreagulation. Like, it's not meant to be something you would want to, like, have up on your wall necessarily, right? It's meant to just be something that's quite intriguing to walk through. I hope I'm making people see things, you know, done in a way visually that they've not seen in Source before. Or like maybe they haven't seen a Source mod but did some of the visual things I've done. That's kind of what I'm going for, so.
Or rather, it serves a different purpose than Scorn. I mean, there's combat involved, which is way different, but yeah, it clearly has its own distinction from Scorn, you know, so it serves its own purpose, which is it's nice. It's not just some Scorn clone. It does carry its own weight.
Yeah.
It has a nice Doom or Quake vibe, honestly. Yeah, I see the Quake one a lot.
I was inspired by Doom Eternal's fleshy sections for some of the art design in the mod, so that's a little bit
What the
If head
fuck
crabs
did this
crack open the
guy?
top of the skull to control hosts, how come when you knock the head crab off, the zombie's top of the head is intact? I have some very strong feelings about that.
No, I have strong feelings about what NBC did. This guy, he said, "I'm going to meow."
Oh no!
I just wasn't expecting to hear. Like, I just go back in the chat. I just see, "I'm going to meow." I'm like, bro, that should not have like caught me off guard that hard, dude.
When it comes to head crabs, I don't know how it is when it comes to Goreagulation, but when it comes to head crabs, I have a firm belief that they don't crack through the skull.
I would say that's probably the same with Goreagulation. I don't think they crack through the skull. I think they go through the mouth like a face hugger, right?
Yeah,
Face huggers were the inspiration, pretty much, weren't they? So it's like they probably just work the same as face huggers.
You guys want head crab zombies to be significantly more scary? Here's my take on them. They don't do anything to the brain at all. They leave the brain completely fine. Then they just take. Basically, what they do is they sit on the face of the host, shove something down the throat, and take control of the neck.
Damn.
Down. So they have full control of the rest of your body while you only have control of your head.
That is horrible.
And they are in constant pain.
Yeah, I mean, I would
Still
accept
alive.
it. I would accept it if I like. Do you actually see anything like? You don't see anything like that when you look at the model. When you look inside that thing, especially in Alex, it's just like higher fidelity. But that's a good idea. I always thought I thought you were gonna go about it like they take control of the nervous system, and by extension, like they control your body and your mind is still alive.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically.
We're gonna do it.
Yeah.
That's the
That's-
normal lore, isn't it? Why zombie plane lines are explanations of suffering. Yeah, exactly.
So
And the reason why none of the models in Half-Life Alyx and Half-Life 2 and everything have any damage to the skull. Alright, I'm done. I won't take over this whole stream talking about head crabs.
That's fine. Yeah, this is not a Half-Life lore stream. There is some of my own stuff to talk about. Chat. With the so someone asked how long did this mod take to make and how many people worked on it. I had 2 people test it. I had 3 people actually, because my girlfriend does some voice acting at the end. I had 3 people voice acting it, but I did all the level design, modeling, and so on. Some stuff around the place I used from other sources, but like I did pretty much all the developing on this one. It was meant to be a solo development journey, so I wanted to kind of just keep the vision as close as possible to what I had in mind. When you're working it, I like working in a team environment because what you can get done in a team is very different. Like if I'd had like a 20-person team with Regulation, maybe it would have looked very different from this. But when you get into a team environment, you also end up having to, you do have to also kind of like desaturate the vision a bit. You know, you have to kind of go, right, this person doesn't think that this is a cool idea and they're doing this for me and I want them to have a say. And that's totally fine. And we do that on RTBR. It's a democratic process. But ultimately, this was a very personal thing, so I wanted this to be personal. I largely did this alone, besides the voice acting and the testing. And then the testing was, you know, stuff like gameplay and all that. In terms of this room, so Goreagulation has a couple of these really vastly huge rooms that are probably way bigger than they need to be. But I deliberately did that because I wanted to evoke this feeling of being small in a really impossibly big world, right? Like, so far, you've gotten up to this part in the mod and you've largely been in corridors, right? Where you can see all the way to the top and all the way to the bottom. But you can only just about see the bottom there, and you can't see it clearly. And then when you're on the middle platform, you can't clearly see the roof. And that was intentional because what I want is... You know, I want you to walk into these spaces and feel overwhelmed. I want you to go in there and go, oh crap, this is a lot bigger than me, right? And then I want you to kind of have to look around because this guy's shooting you from up high and you can't see them, right? Now, this was difficult to balance at a gameplay perspective because you don't want the player to get too lost, right? And I think we got there in the end. But if people walk into this room and are intimidated by the size, they should be. Every overly large chamber in the mod, I suffered through art passing obnoxiously large rooms because I wanted to evoke that feeling of feeling really small. And I think
This visual looks like an alien factory in Black Mesa.
oh, well, I mean that was kind of an inspiration slightly.
I can see it. A little bit.
Yeah.
But I like the unnecessarily huge source maps aesthetic, like the Aya and the Beta.
Yeah.
It adds a lot of character for that dark and insignificant feel.
Yeah. Dan's got asked, do I use Hammer++? I do use Hammer++. Yeah. Well, I used Hammer++ and Goreagulation. Now, I have a lot of things I don't really like about Hammer++. I have a lot of things I do like about Hammer++. For Goreagulation in particular, a lot of the things that it did made my life easier. Goreagulation has reasonably small, very tightly contained maps. So Hammer++ is pretty useful for that. But Slarty's Hammer, I always found to be more reliable on RTBR, because RTBR has much larger maps than Goreagulation. So I largely use Goreagulation. I largely use Hammer++ for Goreagulation. I largely use Hammer++ for Burton Equation now, with the exception of some of the Miami levels, because they are really large. But I don't use it for RTBR, because it's not as good at handling bigger maps, I found. The yellow lines were not intentionally inspired by Ultra Kill, but I really love Ultra Kill, so that could well have been an unconscious inspiration. More like I was looking for another light texture, because I use the red light textures quite a bit in this mod, and I was looking for another one to add some variety, and so I made a custom yellow one and then did it in the light stock rad file. It's not that difficult to do, actually. These moving bits here are a reskin of a moving texture I actually put in later, and that was done during testing. So that's just basically meant to point out these things a bit more. You see on those.
Valve just casually leaving all of Half-Life 2's assets in Portal. Well, they used a lot of the assets in Portal. They made the if I remember correctly, they made the connection with Portal and Half-Life just to explain away the same assets.
Oh, really? Damn, I didn't even know that, man.
So
Spawn's airboat.
Spawn's airboat flies around chamber 18. Very nice. So this is another projected texture here for player guidance. It's just another pointing out that map base is really powerful. I didn't abuse every feature of map base to the fullest extent, but just little things like this for telegraphing, right? I can just do that more easily. Obviously, this has a custom texture on it, and the inside is the custom textured SMG ammo boxes. That was just a consistency thing, basically. Let's go back downstairs now. So the main thing is that there are rooms in this mod that are not fleshy, that are just purely industrial. But for those, I still wanted to channel, like, industrial horror. So when there's not specifically flesh, I took a lot of inspiration from Silent Hill for, like, how they put together their industrial spaces, where even if there's no blood or anything, their industrial spaces still look quite horrible. And that's why I also overuse pipes, like this on the walls here. I call these pipe hell segments when there's just a ridiculous number of pipes, because it's like, what possible cause is there for this many pipes? What could you possibly be transporting? For me, a lot of that kind of aspect of industrial horror, like what Silent Hill does and what I'm trying to do here, is not really understanding what the purpose of a machine could be. So the idea behind a world like Half-Life 2 and immersive worlds in general is that you can look at a room and go, oh, this is meant to be a waste processing room, or this is a granary, right? Or this is living quarters, right? And what I wanted to evoke with Goreagulation is you're never quite sure what's the point behind each room, right? Like, what was this room before it was corrupted by flesh? What was this room even though it's not corrupted by flesh, right? Like, what's the point behind the architecture in some of these rooms, right? The fact is, you don't know. The old god thinks of things beyond your making. Why did he put together this facility like this, right? Presumably, this was a facility before he touched it, because when he's having his way, rooms are totally fleshed up, right? So he's bastardized somewhere, and why has he done it this way? We don't know. So yeah, the point is to look cool, really, but in part of that looking cool, it's also to defamiliarize the player and leave him uncomfortable. I think someone asked above, what was the inception of the mod? When was the inception and how long did it take? I didn't work on this straight up, like, in one straight line, like barrel down it like a cannonball. I did that towards the end of Goreagulation's development. I mostly just worked on this and nothing else for about 2 months. And now we're barreling into that same kind of idea with RTBR. I'm working nothing but RTBR until it's done. But for this, I came up with it maybe about a year and a half ago. I came up with the name first because for a lot of projects I come up with the name first to kind of help me figure out what kind of vibe I'm going for, you know. And I think the name is one of the most important things in mods and everything. So that was pretty important to get right. So a year and a half ago I came up with the idea, but I didn't really properly start working on it until about a year ago. And then, yeah, if I'd worked on it solidly for a straight amount of time, it probably would have taken, I'd say, like 6 to 8 months. But I didn't. So that's why it didn't take 6 to 8 months. But still, I'm happy with a year turnaround time for properly starting the project. So I'll just go back to this room briefly. So before I actually made the rest of the mod, this was the first set piece I had in mind, the gore mines. These things that come down and drill people on platforms, right? So this was my very first idea for a set piece, and I had this idea when this was still a MapLabs entry. So I had this idea of, in the MapLabs entry, you're going to go around, blow up some of these, right? And that was going to be the idea. Now, originally you blew these up with, you blew these up by killing an eye, but when I introduced the eyes as a way to open locked doors, I needed another method for this, so I introduced the wells instead. This poison the well text was put here, the suggestion of one of the testers who felt it wasn't quite obvious what you're actually supposed to do here. So that plus lighting was the intent for that. And then this map is gore mines, so there's more gory stuff, there's more mine imagery stuff. I haven't talked about
some good core strength to stay up like that.
Yeah. I was thinking of creating a custom animation for it, but it just would have been a hassle. And I didn't get around to it. But I probably would have done something like, because he's a prop dynamic, he's not actually an NPC. So maybe I would have done something like him kind of with his arms and legs down around the platform, and then maybe he would just go still and die when the drill comes out. But yeah, I didn't really come up with something for that.
You just roasted this man, calling him a prop dynamic and not a person.
I know, I'm sorry.
Right, NPC.
It's the NPC.
No, he's just a prop dynamic. Yeah.
Exactly, he is just a prop dynamic. The music in the mod was composed by myself as well. I went for very kind of like, you know, moody tones and everything. I used the full stretch tool a lot, which is basically just done to try and extract kind of weird, surreal noises. Because I'm not actually a musician, I'm not a composer, so I wasn't going to be able to properly put together
Effective.
notes.
It's fun, just to stretch sounds out, you know. And I mean, you can get a lot out of it.
Yeah, for sure. And I really enjoyed the process. I'm not like a serious composer. I don't know if I would sit down and actually learn how to write music, like notes and all this, right? But I did enjoy just kind of making the stuff that I made for Goreagulation, where it was very just kind of like ambient stuff that's kind of meant to be adding to the atmosphere. That kind of thing was pretty fun. We've got a couple of things to talk about here. Show him first. The overall idea of the mod is that it gets fleshier as you go on. So as you go through the maps, things will get fleshier and fleshier. I think the end of map 3 is really where things are so fleshed up, and then map 4 is only flesh. There is only one industrial bit in map 4, and we'll get there. This is the flechette. This is the shotgun, obviously. As you can see, it doesn't expel a shell because I like to imagine you insert like a bony thing, and then when it blows it out, it just disintegrates the entire thing and turns it into shrapnel, and so it's shooting loads of shrapnel or bone at you. So I imagine that's what's going on there. What
did you use to make the music?
What I used to make the music? Audacity. And I just kind of fucked around with it in there. That was stuff like some of the percussion, quote unquote, that you hear is me slamming my desk next to my microphone. I also there's also vocalization, which is just me going like that, and then Paul stretching it and maybe changing the pitch and then adding reverb and stuff like that. So I ironically did more sound design than composing, I would say, when it came to the music, because I do a little bit of sound design. Certainly more commonly I do sound design than composing. And I basically arranged a bunch of stuff and then sound designed it until it sounded like an ambient track. There's only one exception to this, and that's the boss fight music. For that I used some samples, and then I modified the samples. Because I wanted some kind of music for the boss fight. I didn't just actually want it to just be another ambient thing. That didn't seem appropriate. If there's any notes, the way I did that is because I don't have a piano or an electronic piano or anything that I can plug into my computer. I literally, it's gonna sound really scuffed, but I looked up online piano, went to a website that had a piano on it. Tossed on OBS recording or NVIDIA Shadowplay or whatever, and I just recorded playing a few notes through the web browser, and then I stuck that in Audacity, and I screwed with it in that respect. So that's some of that. Did I already blow up this one?
That's kind of how I used to do it.
Yeah.
It works. It works, right?
I mean, it did the job, right? It's like whatever. I'm not a professional, so I can use intriguing methods of getting things done. So this is another. Oh fuck! This is a big room. This room had a very different layout during testing. All of these platforms were on one plane, and you didn't go up or down at all. And so it was a pretty and there was nothing in the middle of the room. So the first big change to this room's layout that helped me kind of figure out how to nail this room, because each of these big rooms, art passing one normal room usually took maybe a day, maybe. So actually, and by a day I mean like a day's worth of modding. So maybe 2 or 3 hours, right, to art pass a normal sized room. These rooms usually took a week of 2 to 3 hour. A week of 2 to 3 hour days in order to actually produce this. In order to actually get the finished result out of these larger rooms. Some took longer. Like, for example, the final boss room in Gore 4, that's the 4th map. That's why it's called 4, wouldn't you believe it? That room took more like 2.5 weeks of a couple of hours a day working on it. So yeah, but each of these rooms was a giant visual and gameplay design problem, because they're impossibly huge, and that's by design, right? I've already explained why I made them that big. But every time you introduce an impossibly huge space, you need to then fill the space artistically so that it looks like a good space and not just a giant empty room. And then you need to also produce gameplay that works in a gigantic space. And keeping in mind, at this point in the mod, you don't have the revolver or the crossbone. So I can't really do a lot of long-range combat. So the idea is keep enemies aggressive. So the enemy soldiers here are supposed to be aggressive and push at the player. There's also fast head crabs for the first time, so that they can speed around the platforms and get at you. And the other thing is, you know, so those kind of help solve that. And then to make it more interesting and to fill the room a bit more, each of these platforms is moved at different levels, and so the wells you have to blow up are at different levels as well. The thing that really helped this room come together, even in the block out, was shoving the GLaDOS generator in the middle. Now this is bigger than normal as a GLaDOS generator. There's a player clip here because it's a resized prop dynamic, and I put some volumetric light models coming out of the holes here. But when I put this in here, it's like the whole room started to finally just fit together, because it's like a giant beehive in the middle of the room. And so what I could do with that is gear the entire room's design around the generator, right? So that was visually, that was also in terms of gameplay. That's how much difference one thing like that can make. Like, as soon as this was in here, everything else just kind of came to me, and I was just able to slot it all together. The creepy sound that comes out the well is the horror sound effects from Half-Life 1. The reason for that is presumably whatever supernatural means have been employed to keep these guys alive whilst they've been drilled. That's maybe their soul escaping or something. So I haven't also talked about the fact that I did voice act these soldiers. This is very much last minute. I was not actually intending to actually redo the voice acting for the soldiers, but I was showing a lot of people on RTBR Goreagulation before it came out, and people kept asking, hey, are you going to re-record the soldiers? And I kept going, probably not. And they went, oh, okay. And because people kept asking, every single new person I showed it went, oh, you're going to re-record the soldiers? And I was like, I should probably do that, shouldn't I? Because that's what everybody seems to be asking. So that's why I did that. And I guess the intent behind that is it kind of, you know, helps kind of defamiliarize further. These are not your Half-Life 2 Combine. This is map-based projected textures being lovely again. And here's a little detail. This guy is getting, these two guys are getting piped full of something. Maybe they're being turned into Gorebyne. Who knows? And this one's going into that guy's mouth. That's meant to be the whole face hugger thing. About the most distressing thing about the face hugger is the whole oral rape thing. I guess I'm pretty sure that's in Raising the Bar. I don't say those words lightly, but I'm pretty sure that's in the Raising the Bar book.
You're quoting.
I think I'm quoting the Raising the Bar book there when they were talking about something. Maybe the heck rats. So.
By the way, I just noticed the gore melons. I didn't even see that before.
Yeah, so they're
Flags.
the flags. So you can so they're just watermelons retextured. The whole point is just to basically, you know, create.
It's gross and it does the job. I mean,
just meant to give you something fun to smash, right? So.
Yeah.
Mr. Friendly. Yeah.
That's a little heart prop. I use them later in the mod for the boss fight. But when that's the only asset which is like a new asset I sourced from elsewhere, but I didn't model because I wasn't really convinced in my ability to model an anatomically correct heart, so I just kind of looked on like Sketchfab for one. They're in the credits for it. But yeah. So on these guys as well, there's some guys who are spiked on the ceiling. This one's through his chest. This one's through his chest as well. And then this one's through his back, coming out his mouth.
No, it looks like it's going somewhere else.
Well, I don't know.
Oh, okay. No, I from what I saw, it looked like it was going up where the sun where the sun don't shine.
It could be going up somewhere else. These textures here are actually slightly adapted from an RTBR texture I made many years ago. Which is to say, I looked up, I think, like slime, maybe even Nickelodeon slime on Google, and I took an image from that and I modified it for the health vial animated texture in RTBR. So then I just used that here for Goreagulation and turned it red so it looks like gore and entrails and stuff. But just to clarify, although there's a lot of gory stuff in Goreagulation, I did not use real gore at any point. I don't think that's... I don't believe it's ethical to use real gore in the creation of these kinds of things. If you really feel up to it, I guess you can look at real gore. And I didn't go out of my way to look at real gore, but I did look at injuries for a few things. But I didn't look at like gore and teeth and stuff. But I think actually using that real gore in these things and unknowingly subjecting people to it is a little unethical. So I wanted to stay away from that for Goreagulation.
Not going the route of the Last of Us folk, right? Because I think they did that.
Yeah. It's like, look, I already see enough of that shit because I do content moderation at ModDB, and that's kind of just part of the job. So I don't really want to be looking for it. See you, Keiko. There's just some more of these here. This kind of effect of it warping is created by it being on a displacement plane, and then just displacing the displacement. It's kind of in the name.
Have a good day, Keiko.
Yeah.
There's being smashed into paste. There's another hidden area here. This one's probably the hardest one to find, I would say. It is not creative. It can mimic, not create. It attempts craftsmanship. That's coming back to this thing where it can basically recraft something. It can manipulate something. That's why a lot of what it works with are flesh, because flesh it can be manipulated. But yeah. Yeah, working for ModDB is my full-time job. I do it's a very small team, so I do pretty much everything. But yeah.
Amicus, can you please say the catchphrase of Father Grigori?
What is his catchphrase?
It's me, Father Grigori. This is my catchphrase, brother.
I'm just
Can't do it
imagining
right
it's just brother. Like, you just say brother, that's the catchphrase, I guess.
Yeah, there we go. Brother, 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 brother.
It's Grigori time.
Starts rapping.
It's Grigori time.
And then he Grigoris away with those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, we're coming up to the second starring role in the mod.
There he is.
Not like the others, right? You gotta get me out. I'll make it worth your while. I promise.
I promise. That's him. That's Amicus, by the way, just so you guys are curious.
Don't
That's me.
press that button. There's gotta be another way out of this.
Oh, yeah, wait, no, I think you already, I think you already told everybody what happened when Game Boy played this, right? But, I think when in Amicus' stream, when Game Boy went up to the button, you said he just, like, he didn't even listen to the dialogue, he just pressed it.
Yeah, so the amount of people who play this segment, I've watched a lot of playthroughs on YouTube now of Goreagulation, right? The amount of people who just play this segment and come up and squish him without listening to him talk at all. It's quite funny.
Squish him again.
Squish him again. All right.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Oh fuck you!
That fuck you is great. Man.
Sorry. It has to be done.
So that's him dead. He's a bit dead. It's not very nice. So
He's just sorry, had to be done. He should have gone.
in it. So, spoiler alert, this is a developer stream. If you do that, you don't get the revolver. You only get the revolver if you save him. I did this because there is a pretty difficult fight you have to do to actually get the revolver if you want to save him. And I figured, you know, some people might just press this and go on their way and be a bit lazy. But yeah. Some people didn't also understand that pressing this button killed him. This was in version 1.0 of Goreagulation. I think it's pretty obvious when he says don't press the button and there's a giant plate above him, but that's neither here nor there. So I added spikes to the giant plate above him and some blood on it, which looks smeared, and that was the whole point behind that. So yeah, cool. So you have to save him or you don't get the revolver. More pipe hell. There you go. There's some red smoke. Hello, glitched microwave. I am on this stream. He is Kralik 2, Amicus. I am Kralik 1. All right, I'm the Kralik on this stream. This is my stream now.
Yeah, this is his stream.
Exactly. I mean RTBR's
Also,
stream, but RTBR is me, so you know.
There's 3 Kraliks here in total in case one wasn't enough.
Exactly. Entity is here as well. He was voicing the prisoner initially, and all these roles are important in the eyes of Kralik. So this chain that's been seen around, by the way,
awesome.
was done by someone who did some assets for RTBR. His name's Calamando. He did some really cool stuff, and he did this chain for RTBR, and I said, can I use it in Goreagulation? So, yeah.
This is awesome.
Kralik 1, Kralik 2, and Kralik 3. Hello.
With the 3 Kraliteers.
Break some flags.
Kral and the doo-wops.
In version 1 of Goreagulation, all these flags are in like a flag holder, but a displacement, and they were all removed in version 1.1 because for some reason putting an SMG grenade on these displacements would crash the game. I don't know why. This is the crash that you ran into, Amicus. That's what that crash was with the grenade in the in the room. I don't know why, but I just got rid of them, and that fixed the crash. So don't worry about it. Anyway, I sure hope nothing bad happens to me in this room, boys. I'm just gonna come in here. Oh, supplies. What's gonna happen? So
You said,
They look like balls.
So that green light coming down from the eye, by the way, is actually a projected texture. That creates some great shadows in this whole sequence that are really nice. Again, map-based, using it to nice effect here. You might be wondering, but Kralik, the max amount of projected textures. I don't know if anyone's wondering this, if there's any mappers in the chat. Kralik, the max amount of projected textures in map base is 4. How did you get a 5th one and also the flashlight? And the answer to that is on RTBR in Division 1, we perhaps overused when we first. There we go. When we first got onto map base, we perhaps overused projected textures. Like we used like 8 or 9 per map for Division 1.2. So in order to actually optimize, we have a series of in-out triggers in a lot of maps in RTBR. We didn't do this in Division 2 really, but I reused the same method of regulation. So the fan projected textures are currently turned off because you can't go back that way anyway. A door locks behind you when you come into this room. Yeah. So yeah, this stuff that comes. Oh, what the hell? When did that happen? Oh, that's kind of amusing. Oh, I'm stuck. No, I'm not. Alright, I'm good. Okay, I don't know when that happened.
Post-development corals.
Well. Interesting. I didn't get that reported. That's interesting. Anyway, ignore that. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Let's move on. All good. The stairs come out the walls. And that's pretty cool. It especially looks good with the projected texture as the room slowly gets cloaked in shadow, except for right in the middle where the skull drops down. So I'll put that there.
Knew you'd come through. Saved my goddamn life. I found this one time I managed to sneak out. Looks like a real killer. Take it to him, will ya?
This is an improvement from 1.0. He now actually holds out the gun.
You're gone, pal. I can't be of much help. Do what you gotta do. I'm gonna find another way out.
Thank you, and good luck.
Good luck.
Okay, so the meat spinner is actually a really like it's obviously not an essential gun because you can complete the entire mod without getting it. But I wanted it to be really cool and everything, and so I didn't want to possibly make a really shitty looking revolver because this is another one like the Goreagulation. I wasn't really sure what I was going to be working with, so I modeled it over the Half-Life 2 revolver, and then what I did is there's some lore now about this is the closest gun to the normal stuff, right? And the eye hates this gun. That's why this guy was able to find it, and it was just kind of thrown away in the trash. The eye hates this gun because it's everything that he's not, because it's creative and it's really well machined, and he couldn't make something like this himself. He had to mimic something, so he hates it in actuality, so he threw it away. This lore is actually in a secret. So if you squish Amicus and then you also get the skull to save him, there is a second podium up the stairs that you can only open if you do that. And it's full of revolver ammo because it's meant to be kind of funny. And then you also find a little secret clipboard. I'm just going to no-clip through there. I'm not going to redo this whole segment. But I am going to do one more thing because I have seen nobody go back and try this, by the way.
See that mess on the floor? That would have been me if you'd pressed that button. Thank fuck.
I've seen nobody try that to actually see him do a scene. I don't think you can press it again. No, you can't. So, yeah.
Finally, Red Dead Redemption gaming.
Exactly.
What?
So let's come up these stairs. So the meat spinner was the second to last weapon I made. So originally there wasn't going to be there wasn't going to be 4 maps in Goreagulation. There was only going to be 3. It was going to be first one, this one, and then the next map would have been the boss fight with the eye. But that was kind of too short. Even for a mod that's intending to be short, that kind of felt like too stilted. So I slotted in one more map, and that excuse me. I feel like that necessitated an extra weapon. So that's why the crossbone got made, and that's why that one was the last one to get made. I'm going to no-clip through this door. So this room is the one that has the hidden lore dump. In order to activate this pedestal, you need to both get the skull to save Amicus and then actually kill Amicus. So yeah. There's the extra ammo. You can also see it in detail. For ammo boxes like the shotgun ammo where there's actually shells inside, it is of course the bullets from the actual gun. So I'll go close on this notepad. The meat spinner. Despite all its power, the eye hates it. And why? Because it is all that he is not. It is engineered, creative, thought out. The intricacies of its make are beyond anything the eye can muster, for he imitated man-made technology. It represents the strength of metal over meat, and so he hates it. I probably should have said it because the eye doesn't really have a defined gender. It's an old god. What's in your pants, old god, would be his answer to that one. That's I guess you could interpret that as whoever wrote that clearly doesn't really understand the eye, doesn't really understand what they're doing. Could have been anyone, could have been anything. Anyway, let's progress. Doesn't everyone just have meat in their pants though? No original person.
Alright.
Right, let's move along from this. That's a good question, but let's just move along. Anyway.
It's for another stream.
For another stream, yeah. So, the sounds for the revolver were something I wasn't really sure exactly how I was going to handle. Even with stock sound effects, I couldn't really produce results I was happy with. So what I asked instead was I asked Sloth from RTBR, who is a sound designer on RTBR, and he did the revolver sound effects for RTBR. I asked him, can I use them as a basis? He said, sure. So that's why the reload sounds are so similar. I kind of fleshed them up. But the firing sound is made from various stocks and stuff put together. I actually made it for another mod for another game I made. I don't know if anyone here has played Pathologic, but I made currently the only modern mod DB for that game. I think it's, well, as far as I know, it's still the only one. It was the first one at any rate, called Pathologic Relapse, which is basically meant to be a general improvement mod for the game, and as much as can be done anyway. And the firing sound that I did for the revolver in that game, I then adapted for use here in Goreagulation. So not made specifically for Goreagulation, but I did still make it at some point, and then I just adapted it, basically. Since I already quite liked how it sounded. The pumping sound of the shotgun, by the way, is one of the aforementioned examples of using a Nerf gun sound. I used the cocking of a Nerf gun for the like the kind of the handle that you cock on the side every time you want to fire a dart. With that, it added a nice bit of feeling to it. This is a I think a room has a pretty good striking visual from top to bottom. In terms of this room, it originally only went down, it didn't go up. So this was just kind of a ceiling that started about here. So where this red bar is, it just kind of did there. So that was something I did in the art pass. And then when it came to playtesting, one of the testers said this room would feel like even more kind of uncomfortable if it went up all the way to the point of hitting the fog as well. So that's why it goes all the way up and all the way down, basically. This is one of the last times in the mod where you'll see also just industrial spaces. It's mostly flesh from now on, but this map is split into a few halves. So yeah.
Like the sound from the shotgun, this pump's really juicy.
Yeah, I can see it. I've noticed that not a whole lot of assets in the mod for RTBR are actual leak assets. Is it for legal reasons? You can't try and get it on Steam or something? No, it's because the leak assets were made in some cases in the year 2000. Which means they do not fit with a lot of even Half-Life 2 assets in terms of quality, right? Like Half-Life 2 assets are already like kind of behind the times now, right? But a lot of beta textures are pretty... A lot of beta assets are even further behind the times. Keeping in mind, a lot of them were designed as placeholders as well. At least with Half-Life 2 models, they designed them to go in a game in the end, right? But the beta stuff, a lot of those assets were just designed as, we just need a thing here, right? So, so with that, you know, we would have always had to have remade... It's not ideal. It's fine. This is not a bug fixing stream. Yeah, with that one, you know, so I got distracted there by looking at a decal on the flesh thing. Oh, curse you. Anyway, the point is, it wouldn't work with RTBR anyway because our assets, brand new that we make, are pretty high quality. But it especially doesn't work because even with Half-Life 2, they are worse in quality. So that's why we ended up remaking quite a lot of them. Now, we actually are using still quite a lot of beta assets, particularly world textures. But models we tend to remake where possible, or use CSS and other newer Valve games, because a lot of the times you can find equivalents to these ones in newer Valve games.
And on top of that, remaking things or making things from scratch allows artists and everything that are on the team to kind of flex their creative muscles and have a lot of portfolio shit to show off too.
He jumped in the tub. Whoa!
Taking a bath.
Just decided to get back out of the tub, apparently.
Freaking bone bath.
Having a bath in the bones. Bone bath.
Bone bath. That's some
Ragdolls
I forget what
don't like being in these very much, I'll be honest.
I forget who the person is who makes that company Goop. It's like some pseudoscience shit.
Paltrow. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Gwyneth Paltrow. Yeah. This is my bone bath.
Lovely.
This is my bath full of various substances and biomatter that I like bathing in on a consistent basis.
Lovely.
Because it really heals me.
This is a Gwyneth Paltrow fan cam stream.
Yeah.
I love
CS
pepper
source
pots.
assets use is fine in my book. Half-Life 2 and CSS practically have the same exact art style, except one isn't infested with aliens. I think Counter-Strike Source has a lot more high-fidelity assets because it's a lot newer.
You mean
Patrick
CS:GO?
Bateman voice? Oh, CSGO. Yeah, never mind. I'm fucking stupid.
we use quite a lot of CS:GO assets as well, and Left 4 Dead. Just because these assets all, I think it's generally, the art styles are close enough that as long as you use them thoughtfully, it's not as weird. Like, if you put a Left 4 Dead 2 car right next to a Half-Life 2 car, yeah, it sticks out like a sore thumb. My advice is to not do that, and it's fine. Because then it won't stick out like a sore thumb. It's when you use them in the same map. At some point, we'll probably remake Half-Life 2 cars anyway, because a lot of the beta ones are really cool, but absolutely shit in terms of quality, and it'd be nice to have nicer remakes of them. This is also just a very simple retexture. Usually only comes in blue. Oh wow, I fluffed both of those. That's great. Alright. So this is the most fleshy stuff in one go in the mod so far, and it's not a coincidence that this is the first map that ran into the displacement limit, because this was from this map onwards, the displacement limit in the maps was a huge problem, because I wanted the fleshy stuff to still be up there, and so a lot of these fleshy props are actually models. Which is not ideal because models have much worse lighting than the displacements. But I tried to do it cleverly so it was less noticeable. Like these, for example, are models, so the lighting's kind of less consistent on them. And
bone supports.
Yeah, and these as well. Now these and some supports you'll see later on in the mod were actually inspired by Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which I recently finished replaying. So there's a sequence in Vampire Masquerade Bloodlines, which is also a Source Engine game, by the way. Really fantastic RPG if you haven't already played it. Where you go into a kind of like a fleshy hell house, and in this hell house everything's made of flesh and bones because it's like owned by vampires that do things like change like change how people look by flesh crafting them, and there's a lot of similarities kind of actually to my ideas of the old god. I was inspired a lot by that whole segment, although he's not a vampire, obviously. But yeah, so that's also another really cool artistic area, I think. This map has a lot of these areas where it's kind of split between industrial and not industrial, and this is kind of to eke out the industrial bit for just a little longer before it gets ejected in the fourth map where it's just all flesh. Yeah. This is also a modified texture. It's usually just a sign texture, but I removed the text. I'll have a look down the fleshy one as well. And this as well is a texture I modified from Half-Life 2 to have some blood on it. I'm pointing.
This is a vampire's wet dream.
Exactly. I'm pointing out all these things because if there's anyone out there who's kind of like, you know, how did I make this all by myself? It's because in a lot of cases the asset use that I did, like I did a lot of original assets of this. Don't get me wrong, but like these are antlion nests, you know, colored red. This is a bunker texture with red on it, you know, and there was some red things down there and there's sign there. What I'm trying to say is, in order to do this by myself, I just did a lot of creative asset reuse where I modified assets, right? And so if you're a mod creator trying to not find problems in your own mod whilst you're streaming it, if you're a mod creator trying to, you know, make something like this yourself, don't be put off by the fact that maybe you don't have the capacity to make 100,000 new assets, right? Make the important ones, you know, from scratch. But where you think it's appropriate, just modify existing ones. That's why we mod, right? That's the advantage we have as modders, instead of, you know, being stuck to always, you know, like making everything from scratch. We don't have to make the 500th unique stepladder model in the gaming industry. Just use one, right, from CS:GO or CSS or whatever. And it's that sometimes when your mod doesn't get made. So there's a decal there that's not showing. Anyway, moving on. I was a little bit inspired by Giga, by HR Giga. Yeah, I was. And Giga is pronounced Giga, by the way, not Geiger. Right, so this is the last weapon of the mod. I added a spotlight to it because a lot of people walked past it. I actually literally saw people in videos walk either past it like this and not pick it up, or go around the edge of the room like that. And it seemed a little silly to me because there's a corpse in the middle of the room and there's no immediate threat, so I just assumed most people would walk around the outside of the room, at the middle of the room, but they don't. And so I don't want people to miss the crossbone here, so I put a light on the crossbone. So the crossbone has my favorite sound design, and I just literally shot with it. It's great. I'll talk about this in a second. The crossbone has my favorite sound design in the mod of all the weapons I did. It's probably a little bit biased just because of the fact that I did all the sound design from scratch. But I'll explain the different layers in a sec. Finish killing this guy here. So the model obviously is based off the crossbow from Half-Life 2. But this is actually a crossbow from the animations are actually for the crossbow from the Burton equation, because we're going to have a crossbow in that one, and we don't actually have a crossbow in RTBR. So that's why there's another animator in the credits besides Silent, because this one's actually from Burton equation. Anyway,
Man, what a useless scope, though.
yeah, for this one, I just like to imagine the meat man's eyes zooming in, like popping out his head, going closer to the target. Not really, but you know, imagine that if you like
Looney Tunes.
Yeah, imagine that like Looney Tunes, and then also the light on. You know?
Yeah. You could have like, I don't know, like a sound for the zoom in, you know, like with his eyes just flushing out and try to, you know, articulate that or show that in some way.
Exactly.
Just like the eyes popping out.
Yep. So obviously there's a green glow on the bone instead of the orange glow from Half-Life 2. In terms of design, you know, it's a crossbow made out of bones. I originally just called it the bone bow, but Amicus suggested the name crossbone, which is infinitely better, so that's why that's what it's called. I'll fire off another shot so we can pick apart some of that. So the firing sound is like 4 Nerf guns I recorded the inside of the barrel, so not the outside, but the inside, so I could get both the spring and the air noise in one go. I recorded the inside of the barrel, and then I, for the reloading, the pulling the tendons back, because those are tendons, like the Achilles tendon, so if that makes you feel uncomfortable, good. That effect was achieved by strumming an elastic band across a cardboard surface, and then also just strumming it and holding it taut and recording that noise, and then putting the actual thing, the actual bolt back in the crossbone. That sound was a magazine being ejected and then inserted into a Nerf gun. Pretty sure I used the insert sound effect, but I also used a bit of the eject sound effect. Put together with some of the fleshy sounds I'd already recorded, like celery snapping and that kind of thing. So yeah. These bone supports here are the ones that were specifically inspired by the Masquerade Bloodlines.
I like how the character inserts a bone bolt and then pushes it back with force. Also such a shuffling, quiet sound.
Oh, nice shot.
In it. This is a very simple retexture. I just made the screen red because a screen being blue here didn't really line up with the art design for this segment. I wanted some computers because I wanted to kind of give another indication of, oh, this was a tech complex at some point. What happened here? You know, there's even a dead guy here. And then there's some flesh growing in the servers here. In all the computer stuff and everything. I just textured this screen red just to clear up that kind of small lighting inconsistency. There we go. Enough of
This
that.
is just the Apple HQ. They're all
Steve
making
Jobs.
iPhones. That's what they're mining the flesh for.
Yeah. iPhone.
iPhone. Oh, I didn't even think of that when I said it.
These guys process some G grenades. I deliberately let him do that. That's a feature map base gives me. So I didn't want the AR2 in this. You know, I still wanted the elites to have something a little bit more to them than just the fact that they had more health. And map base allowed me to do that, so it was pretty cool.
Ascend the spire. Destroy Steve Jobs.
Roy.
Would have expected their offices to just be single empty white rooms for Apple.
Perhaps.
Just voids.
The lore of why everything is flesh is because that's what looks cool in the context of the mod. That's about it. It's spooky. Ooh, everything's fleshy. That's why.
It's really scary, man.
It's pretty
Does the
scary.
inside of that glass pipe have like veins?
Yeah, this is a default Half-Life 2 texture.
Really?
Yeah. It's used for the Citadel.
I didn't even know that.
And which part did that show up?
The Citadel.
The Cid. Oh yeah, I was about to say it. It looks like it. I just wasn't sure because I don't.
Stabilization team holding in
Thought
position.
maybe like showed up somewhere else.
So these are the Gorebyne Elites. These are my favorite of the enemy models I made. And I made one more that hasn't been shown yet, but this one is my favorite. I really liked how the eye came out. And I just like the bony armor. Because of the fact that I mostly made them out of bone instead of out of flesh like the other two Gorebyne variants. They look a lot more heavily armored anyway than the normal soldiers do. Like, they look like they would justify their higher health because they're made primarily out of bones, so they'd be more hardy. This area here is meant to obviously introduce them in these kind of like birthing pods, but because I was so proud of these models in particular, these enemy models, I sort of designed this area as a zoo so you could actually just look at them if you wanted. So that's part of the reason behind that. They can also use crossbones. A couple of other Combine in the mod use Gorebyne use crossbones. And that's another map-based feature that allows me to do that. But I don't quite hold them properly because they're very differently proportioned to an SMD, but yeah,
This is what they were working on before they made the iPad.
exactly.
When I blow my nose, it is 80% blood. Oh god.
So coming up is one of my favorite visual set pieces in the mod. So there's this head you have to pick up, and I was like, I wanna kind of really channel an interesting vibe here. So I made a kind of Goreagulation. So for this, I used a lot of textures and props from Lost Coast. As you can see, first of all, we've got these braziers burning here, and we've also
I
got
like that it's scorching the ceiling there too.
yeah, we've also got these kind of lit candles here. And then, of course, this piece of artwork here. So this was a combination of original work, photoshopping, and AI stuff. So the first thing I did was I took the Creation of Adam by Michelangelo, and I put that through the Deep Dream AI. And what that did is, first of all, that created this whole, like, all these pock marks, and it really fucked up Adam's look and everything and made him look all mutated and horrible. And then I modified the colors, did all the color correction and everything so that it would be more kind of orangey yellow, because Deep Dream produces like multicolored kind of artwork. And then I took the old god from Goreagulation, and I photoshopped him into the place where God usually is, put him through the Deep Dream AI as well, and then photoshopped it all together. And then that's the result there. Now this one's obviously modified for in-game use. There's some pockmarking around the edges and stuff to kind of help it grow onto the wall. The original unmodified one, without all the without all the edge stuff for the in-game, like, so just the flat image, that's in a bonus file on ModDB in the add-on section if you want that for whatever reason.
Still got the Photoshop file. Would love a wallpaper of that.
I don't have the Photoshop file, but I do have the, as I just said, I do have the original resolution, not in-game version of this, is in the add-on section on ModDB, in the Goreagulation bonus pack. So the actual image, the PNG, is in there. So that's the one. If you want a wallpaper, and that's really cool that you want a wallpaper of it, you want to grab it from there.
Stand to the left for a second. Like over by that fire there. It looks like the eye is pogging. With the bottom part. Where the head is.
God's sake. No, I'm never going to be able to unsee that. It does, doesn't it? Looks like it's pogging with several mouths.
Yeah.
Looks a bit like a dog face as well. Like
Oh yeah, I
nose.
see that. That big nose there.
Like, mimicking a dog or something.
Isn't it?
Deep Dream. Deep pog.
Anyhow, the face. So this was actually going to be. This was actually me recycling something that was going to be for another map lab. This was years ago. But me, Game Boy, and CW. Oh, let me kill this guy. Thank you. Me. Excuse me. Did he just shoot my head? Shake my head. This
It's one of the most unsettling and one of my favorite parts of this mod. This
what,
head.
the head that moves that you just carry around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was recycled from something me, Game Boy, and CW are gonna make. We were going to do a Halloween entry to a map labs once. It was gonna be like a PS1 horror kind of map, and part of that was going to be replacing man hacks with like flying heads. So I made a separated head model from the zombie, and I also animated it like this. And the idea was it was going to fly at the player like as a man hack and attack them. And then the competition for that map labs for Halloween that year ended up being one room. So you had to do everything in one room, and you were only allowed to use one room. And we were like, wow, that's shit. So we didn't do it. So I just had this sitting in my files for a while because I already made it. And then I was like, I want to do another pedestal puzzle here. But I also don't want to like use the skulls again. So I was like, I could just reuse the head. Problem solved. And then this pedestal was changed in the 1.1 release because some people said it was confusing them because it looked too similar to the skull pedestals from the previous level. They were looking around for a skull and they couldn't find one. Or at least none of the skulls they could find would work, basically. So that's why that one is different. So that's why, yeah, that pedestal looks different now. So this flesher over here, this guy, he's a prop dynamic. He swipes you if you get close. No, I'm not. I don't enter map labs anymore, Danscott. I've run lambda builds for lambda generation. I don't enter map labs or mapping competitions anymore. But I helped run one for lambda generation. Yeah, that guy over there.
Hide the severed head in a fridge somewhere as a reference to the Meet the Medic.
Interesting. I'm not sure that would work with Goreagulation's tone, but you know, maybe. God, that was a bit close.
You could put a severed head up in RTBR like some Easter egg of wish granting head. No, give him the Mimir's voice from God of War.
I'm not sad about it, Danscott. Mapping competitions were interesting for me when I wasn't confident enough with mapping to just make a mod like Goreagulation. But I did all the mapping in this mod. I did all the mapping. Not like I delegated some of it. Like I blocked out the maps, art passed the maps, and then implemented feedback to the maps. And I'm fine with that. So I'm okay without making individual maps. But I still want there to be more options for mapping competitions than just one. Because the end result is that you get a community that ends up becoming a bit top heavy if there's only one place to enter. And so that's why I helped with the lambda builds. That was the point behind that. See you, Frost. Thanks for tuning in. That's another simple retext.
See you, Frost. Goodbye.
God bless. No, another secret.
Yeah, another secret.
Oh
so
my god.
just a grenade in there. And that blows up that wall. So all these crates are here to make it a little bit easier to land the grenades in properly.
When I streamed this, one of the barrels or whatever came out and flew out like really comically at me.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. The reasoning behind the yellow light in some areas is because it looks cool. It's not got a specific purpose.
It's cool.
Yeah. Why explain it? It's cool.
Why explain it? It's cool.
There was a golem of pure form and purpose. It could create. It could invent. It was the most dangerous weapon and the only hope. This one has a fast zombie getting chopped up with a meat cleaver, a frying pan with some meat next to it, and the possible draw away to take from this is the reason why all these hidden areas seem to be the only places where there's no meat. Is it because whoever's been surviving in all these areas and escaping throughout the facility to leave these notes for you, is it because they ate all the meat in order to survive? Who knows?
Cannibalism, yay.
Hooray. I mean, do what you gotta do to survive, I guess, is the idea. Ow. I just straight up tanked that one.
Finally, some good fucking food.
As he's eating, like what used to be Mike, but is now Mike, Jim, and Andy.
Didn't you say that alarm used to go throughout the whole level all the time?
Oh, that was in the first map, but yeah, it did. It did used to play for the rest of that map, and it used to have 2 alarms playing at the, like, because they were, like, playing every other note to each other. So...
The office suddenly became a lot more fleshy.
So this is the final hallway. I like this hallway a lot. I don't know, just I think the visual's pretty compelling. I think it's just framed pretty well by these red antline hives along the bottom. And we're coming up on the final map now. Sorry, a moth just flew in my fucking keyboard. Are you kidding me?
Into
My keyboard. What the fuck? Why? Why would you do that, you stupid thing? Now there's... Oh, for fuck's sake.
It's the start of
Did
Goreagulation
it just
in
fly
real
back
life.
out? I think it just flew back out and flew underneath my monitor instead. Not in the monitor, like under the desk. That's fine. That's better. Not in the keyboard, please. Right, anyway.
Your keyboard is the first sign of Goreagulation. So this is where the eye is.
Yeah, we're coming up on him. So everything in this level is fleshy except for the very end and also one more hidden area. These kind of gravity wells are inspired a little bit by the gravity wells from High Charity in Halo 2. And they were suggested by Clatronics, who was a tester on RTV, who also tested Goreagulation. These used to just be spiral staircases, but he thought they would be more interesting if they were like gravity wells. Kind of lifted you up and take you back down. This one doesn't actually take you back down, it's just gravity that makes you fall down. But, you know, the visual is there. We can just get up. There we go. Coming up on another interesting set piece, the fish tank. So this is the fish tank. There's a guy in there. He's being eaten by fish. Now, these are actually a fish I just sculpted because I was enjoying it. I sculpted a few things, and that's kind of largely what led to me thinking I could make Goreagulation because I really enjoyed sculpting organic stuff. So I just sculpted a fish, and I just kind of had it around in my files for a while. When we released when we were not long from releasing NGP02, we talked about having like a fish pool of Zen fish, like some Zen fish knocking about, and so I repurposed this and I made a green, red, and a blue skin variant, and I gave it to the EZ2 guys, which is now used in the mod, in 1 or 2 places, I think. And then when it came to Goreagulation, I was like, hey, maybe I could just actually use the red skin in Goreagulation. And yes, these are the CS Source Fish AI, which is why they appear to be doing fuck all right now. I don't know why they're literally doing nothing.
I didn't even know that fish had an AI.
Sometimes I come up here and all of them are swimming around and it looks really active, and sometimes it's just this shit. So it's like, yeah, wow, great, thanks, bro. But yeah.
Thanks for nothing.
So that's the deal with that one. This is a bony corridor. And then I'll go do the other side as well. This side is a fleshy corridor with a bony room at the top when the other one had a fleshy room at the top. Just reload before I come up here. Hey, go away! Now it's flying around right next to my face and distracting me. I swear to God. Moth's probably flying around my head going, hey bro, I wouldn't have put that model there. Like, yeah, Moth, everyone's a critic. Thanks. So this is the last hidden area then. This area is obviously meant to look more like a barricade has been set up. There's some dead zombies here and everything. That hope is you, that weapon is you. Ascend the spire, destroy the eye. That's the tagline of the mod. Crazy. And then this guy presumably killed himself because there's a pistol with nothing, which you can't pick up. And he a bit dead. Yeah. Okay. Now we come up to the final engagement. So this room here is meant to evoke a very similar framing and idea to the room that leads you to GLaDOS in Portal. It's meant to be like this corridor that points you all towards it, right? This is where some spirals get used to make sure this motif is still used. We have these animated bloody textures. We have a lot of red here, of course. And then, of course, we also have this kind of window here that when you come up, it's looking like directly down the window at you. So then you just see this gigantic eye as you move closer and closer. And your frame rate decreases a bit and closer.
So, my wayward lamb returns to me. Eyes still glazed bright with light. Tell me, little sheep, do you know what I am?
A monster. I've come to turn you blind.
And in the process, have come to be blind yourself. You are one of my greatest progeny, a golem of pure form and purpose. You possess that which my other lackeys did not. Independence, ingenuity, imagination. So it is you fought your way to me,
Moth is still being
succeeding all the way, only to fail now. Your experiment is concluded. Give in. Give up.
Never!
Okay, I'm going to pause it there right before the music plays. So, I'm just going to talk about the voice acting for the eye before the music keeps on going. So, first of all, I voiced the eye, the soldiers, and the main character. And that was intentional because I wanted it to be clear that everybody is a... You know, like the eye is the original, right? You're a spin-off of the eye. The Gorebind are a spin-off, were a spin-off of the Combine, but created by the eye. And so if everything has a voice, it will speak partially with the eye's voice. Now, there's another layer to that voice there. The female layer is my girlfriend. I got her to record all the eye lines and then as well, and then I basically synced them all up. And this is because it's just unsettling, right? Hearing two voices come out the same thing. It helps this defamiliarization because it's like, you know, excuse me. Helps this defamiliarization because you can't really, you know, pin down what it is that's talking to you, right? Because it sounds like both a man and a woman, two voices coming out the same thing, right? And, yeah, so, yeah. I still think the voice for this was pretty cool when it was just mine, but I think adding my girlfriend's voice to it as well, really, took it to the next level. So, yeah. Anyway. This is the last track of the game. This is one for which I use samples. Well, not the last track of the game, there's actually two more. But this is the last of the level tracks for the game. For this one I used samples because I wanted to actually get like an actual music for it. And so I, you know, just ambient stuff I was doing before, wasn't going to cut it anymore. So, yeah.
Did you use the Half-Life samples, like the zeros? I think it's called zero G state or something. Then like methods and and stuff.
No, I didn't. I think I just looked up like dark beat samples or something like that. This is the last enemy one of the mod, being the meat hunter. It's pretty easy to kill with a revolver shot. Pretty a little bit funky on him there. Anyway, the meat hunter provided another enemy to up the ante for this section, but to be honest, I like how it came out and everything, but there's just a real limitation. I would have really preferred if I'd been able to do something like a bull squid or something, but like, or something else. But there's not really a lot of variation when it comes to the enemies that are in Half-Life 2. So it was like, okay, I guess I'll use a hunter, right? And I'll remodel that. I would have used something else if I had the whole Half-Life 1 sandbox to work with as well. But this is fine enough. It's good enough, basically, for what I needed, so...
Perhaps I was too quick to judge your flesh. It hides a greater strength I thought possible. You have met your maker, meat man. Join me again as my fiercest enforcer, as you will always rest.
All the mod feels like a hallucination of a dude.
And be for your own
logo. Who just found expired meat in the refrigerator, and at that very moment he was hit in the head.
Well, I mean, I guess it could be less accurate. Hey, this is the ending choice here, basically. Get a nice close-up of the eye as well. I animated him and the actual eyeball doors as well, though I didn't animate the weapons. Oh wait, shit, no, hang on.
Down here.
Sorry, I should do the bad ending first. Oh, did I just press the fucking quick load key?
A fucking moth.
What? Why am I here? Right, sorry. 1 minute, guys. There we go. There we go. Now we're back.
You have met your maker.
All this time, I've been fighting a power I didn't understand. Now I do. And I see the wisdom in using it myself.
Very good. However, there will be sacrifice.
What? A sacrifice?
Nice echo.
There's an
Certain
autosave, so...
concessions had to be lost once I was remade.
This is a bad
My
ending,
greatest
obviously.
strength
Here's a cool little
had been
detail,
my
just whilst he
ingenuity.
talks a little bit.
My greatest
The
weakness,
captions are there anyway.
mercy,
The
confusion.
closed captions for the
Feelings
meat man are
brought
usually
on
yellow.
by
The
emotion.
closed captions for the eye are red. When you get the bad ending, the closed
no
captions for the
longer.
meat man turn orange.
The world shall be recreated.
That was
The
intentional.
grass shall
Kind of do
turn
that thing
to
where
veins.
he's been merged
The
with the
dirt
eye in a manner of
will turn
speaking
to
now.
muscle.
They've become one.
Those who live above will become one with the eye. And then we shall look further out into the stars. We shall build a spire that reaches into the cosmos. And the eye will remain.
There you go. So that's a bad ending. I'm just gonna... Background, gore, bad, BG. I'm just gonna do this first and then I'll load back in the thing. So each ending obviously also has a unique background map. Which helps these, you know, feel a little bit unique from one another. Anyway, I can just remember here. There we go, and then we'll get the good ending.
Perhaps I was too quick to judge your flesh. It hides a greater
Saw the tyranny you down here. I will not abide by it. This spire will crumble.
then you shall crumble along with it.
Ow. Whoops, blew myself up there. I forgot this is
My main goal.
Yep. Blow up. Nah, right.
saw the tyranny you constructed down here. I will not abide by it. This fire
fine. I'm gonna do a
will
quick save here.
crumble.
Then you shall crumble along with it.
A quick save here.
Nah, it's alright. Quick save back there already. I think we should be easier this time. Play through some grenades and stuff around the room. This area used to be a lot tougher. I added this kind of roof here, which made it a lot easier to fight in the ending, because there's some hunters up there that always used to just dink you and really make this segment really difficult. So this made it a lot easier.
Oh!
I did actually kill some of the guys in there, but you know. The grenade killed one of the elites and a couple of the zombies.
The only thing you are now is dead.
I love that line.
Got him.
Damn. Action hero.
The only thing you are now is dead.
Classic.
Score.
I don't know what kind of world I'm leaving to. It didn't look good, not from the people in here. They've got their own problems. But now, they can face the problems from above, without menace from the problems below. Where I'm going, what I will do, who I will be, I don't know for sure. But for the first time in my short life so far, I don't see flesh. I see grass. I see dirt. I see a world of potential. And I see hope.
He's gonna walk out there and the first citizen is gonna, what the fuck? And
Shoot him.
shoot him with a shotgun.
Yeah, probably.
Regulation 2 when?
I don't know. Several years maybe.
You know.
Maybe in 15 years when RTBR is done.
27 years.
Mm-hmm.
The year is 2077. We still haven't gotten Gorag 2.
Yeah, and we're in a cyberpunk dystopia, but not the fun kind.
A boring dystopia.
We are now in war with the Martian colony.
Mm-hmm.
The Mars Russians. Yeah, this is cool, dude. Can we just give a round of applause real quick?
To all three of us, yeah. And to everyone
Everybody-
in the credits, thanks for playing.
Everybody in the chat there, just type clap.
Wait, we gotta find the hilarious emoji.
Say clap, just one word.
There it is. John Fleshman, who was Gordon Fleshman brother. John kissing Gorman. Christmas.
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 Okay. Anyway, that's Goreagulation. There you go. Hope you liked that little play thingy. As I say, we are yeah, this is us kind of getting involved a little bit. We are currently in final testing for RTVR. That does not mean it's coming out tomorrow. That means it's coming out at some point. Anyway, I guess we'll see. Testing
It's all
usually
coming
takes,
together.
yeah, testing usually takes a while. And we need to make sure everything's refined and such. But then hopefully, you know, there'll be a release at some point this year. We'll see. That would be nice. For now, though, thank you everyone for playing. Thanks for engaging. We're done here for tonight. We'll see you in the next stream whenever that is. Thanks, and have fun.
Ugh.
See ya.